Hey everyone, welcome to the final part of the How to Customize a Clone Trooper series. Today we'll be applying the finishing coats and assembling the figure. Starting with the Hycote matte lacquer, we're going to seal this custom paint job so that it's protected against any future damages. So let's get to it. With this lacquer, it's very important to make sure that the paint is mixed correctly before spraying it. So shake the can for at least 2.5 minutes, and I know that this time works from my experience. If you don't shake it enough, then the lacquer won't dry properly, and rather than being a clear coat, it will be cloudy, and that will ruin all of the hard work of yours, which it has for me in the past. But I learned from my mistakes, and I haven't had a problem since. It's a really good scratch-resistant lacquer, and so it is worth that extra risk. Hycote is my favourite brand of spray paint to use on custom figures. The brand is actually made for automobiles, and so that's why the paint is so strong, because it's made for cars and motorbikes. So from my time experimenting with different brands, this is definitely the best out there in terms of protection and paint coverage. And also, the cans are really cheap if you have a look on eBay. I usually get maybe 4 cans of primer for under £20. Because it's so strong, you'll only need 1 layer of this stuff, and you have to let it dry for at least 4 hours before moving on to the next stage. So, now that paint job is all sealed, let's make the undersuit look more like a fabric material. The Hycote matte lacquer isn't actually a flat matte finish. There is a slight shine to it. I'd say it sits somewhere between matte and satin, which is great for armor pieces, but not great for the undersuit, as we want a flat matte look, a non-reflective finish on this area to sell the illusion that it's fabric. So we're going to go back over it with the Vallejo Black, because that has a flat matte finish, and this will give the illusion that it's a different material compared to the armor. You want a thin consistency on this black paint so that it's not such an issue in terms of rubbing later on. If you paint it directly on without any thinner, then it will scratch off, but if you apply it more like a wash, then it will seep into the lacquer and it will dampen the shine, meaning it will have less issues in terms of rubbing off. So have a ratio around 70 to 30 paint to thinner. And here's how it looks when it's applied, and here's how it looked previously. You can see it's quite shiny compared. So I'm just going to go ahead now and paint the whole undersuit on the figure. And with that, the entire body is finished. Now to do the same thing to the hands. Now I'm going to show you how to create a hot glue joint on the inside of the helmet, and this will allow it to be removable so you can put on the other TEM head. Let's start by popping the neck back on. For this part you will need petroleum jelly or Vaseline, something to create a layer between the hot glue and the plastic. And also paper towels, these ones I've cut to size so it's a little bit easier. And also a stick with blue tack on the end of it, and of course a rod of hot glue. I cut small discs off this rod using a scalpel blade, and I'll show you why we're doing this in a moment. That's all of the things you'll need to make a hot glue joint, and you'll also need a hairdryer if you plan to do it the same way that I do. So firstly, we're going to get some petroleum jelly on a piece of paper towel. And then lather it all over the neck and the joint. And you want to really cover the entire bit of plastic, because you don't want any hot glue actually sticking to the plastic itself. The reason we're using this petroleum jelly is because it will create a layer which will stop the glue from bonding to the plastic. And that's all done. It's very slimy, it's very gross, but we're going to wipe it off later. Now let's stick this helmet to the blue tack on a stick. There you go, and make sure it's on nice and tight and that it won't fall off. Now I'm going to put 3 of these little discs of hot glue inside of the helmet. And now use the hairdryer to heat up the glue until it's melted. And the reason why I'm not using a hot glue gun is because I have in the past and I just don't think it's as effective as using the hairdryer. With a hot glue gun, things can get really messy really quick and the glue can be a pain to clean up if it gets on the exterior of the helmet. So for me, using a hairdryer works better as you can easily regulate exactly how much glue is being used. So you just pop in a few small discs of the hot glue, heat it up, and then put in some more, and you're just pushing them down so that they all meld together. All of that hot glue is now melted, and you want to fill it up roughly over halfway. You don't want too much because you don't want it seeping out in a moment when you're going to pop it onto the neck. And now let's take the helmet off the blue tack, and you can see it's gone very stringy due to the heat. But this is easy to clean up and we'll do that later. And now slide the helmet over the neck and keep it still like a statue for about 2 minutes until the glue is solidified. We're essentially allowing the hot glue to form a joint as it engulfs the neck, so keep it as still as possible while you're doing this. After 2 minutes, that's now solidified and we can pop it off. You now have a removable helmet. And I'm using the scalpel blade to clean up any areas that seeped out, and also shave some material away from the holes so that it's easier to pop on and off. Now using that blob of blue tack, just dab it all over the helmet and it will remove any blue tack that got stuck. Now let's clean that petroleum jelly off of the neck, just use a paper towel and wipe it off. And now that's a hot glue joint done, so the next thing is to assemble the rest of the figure. Like how this all started, just use a hairdryer to pop the arms off, and then we're going to be putting the elbows and the knee pads on. And the hands, don't forget about the hands. And there we go, it's all assembled. But there's just one last thing left to do. Let's make this visor look like an actual lens. I'll be using this Vallejo gloss varnish. Just pouring out a small amount into my palette, and then I'm adding 2 drops of thinner, roughly a 60:40 ratio. And now paint that on nice and thick and do 2 layers in total. And that is the last step of how to customize a clone trooper. And voila! Here's one fully customized Phase 1 501st clone trooper. I do hope this series has helped any aspiring customizers. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or send me a message on Instagram. I'm always happy to help people. Please like the video if you found it helpful, and all of the videos of this series can be found in this playlist. This series will be the most detailed explanation of my process when it comes to making clone troopers, so from now on I'll be making videos of random customs I'm making, and they will be less in depth as the process is pretty much the same for all clones. So let this serve as a base for anything you may have forgotten or not understood from future videos. It's an unfair comparison, but here's how it compares to the original Black Series Phase 1 501st Trooper, which is actually labelled as the Clone Lieutenant, which is incorrect. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this series has been enjoyable and informative. Going forward, there will be shorter, more comprehensive videos of the figures that I'm making and reviews of the customs that I've finished. So subscribe and click that bell icon to stay informed. I'll see you guys in the next one.